Hey guys, welcome back to another week with me, your host Madison. I hope you enjoyed the past 3 weeks. That was a very long case, but I thought it was so interesting, and I have had people come up to me in person and talk about how they really didn't know much about it, or that it was like a full-blown like relationship affair, like it wasn't like a one-time. If I say like one more time. So I hope you enjoyed that. If not, great news, it's over. I have something different for you today. I don't know if I have any type of announcements. We're really just flying by the seat of our pants and hanging out here, honestly. So, maybe I didn't. Maybe this was only the Patreon. I revamped my website. So if you go to madisonshelby.com, you will see every case that I've done since the revamp. I have the episode transcript typed out with pictures inserted in the transcript, kind of like you're reading it instead of listening to it. If that sounds more of your vibe or something you would be interested in doing both, madisonshelby.com. They're all up there. They will continue to be uploaded. If you scroll past the first slider of the most recent cases, there's a subscribe button. That will be WordPress alerting you every time that I upload the next transcript. So if that's something you're really interested in, you can subscribe and you can, they'll go right to your inbox. I think it's very cool. The batch that's on there now, because this is the first time I'm recording knowing I'm going to release the transcript. So those first 12 or 13, they are a little messy. I tried to fix them up as best I could because transcript doesn't always pick up what you're saying the greatest. So some of the words are just like, if you said the sentence fast enough, it would sound right, but if you're reading it, the word might not be right. So there might be some of those instances in these first 12 or 13 transcripts, just because I never intended on releasing them. And then when I had the idea, I was just going to copy and paste my notes that I use, but as I look at my notes, they don't make a lot of sense because sometimes I'll just insert things that I know I want to say but say differently, or just something to remind me to say something else. So I decided to do the transcripts, but I didn't have time to really go through and fully edit all of them. So I did the best I could. They should still make perfect sense, but you might see some things here too. And if you do see that, you can just message me where, and I can go in and fix it, and then I don't have to look for it. Also on the website is a new form to suggest a case. So it's right at the top, and then right below where you subscribe, I think there are 4 more icons of things you can do. The suggest a case is a form now, so you just fill it right out on the website, hit submit, and it goes right to my email and then into my Google spreadsheet. You can also use that to contact me for any other reason if you wanted to. It just goes to my email. So yeah, that was exciting. That's how I spent my last entire weekend. And it was kind of fun. So I hope you like it. Even if you don't want to read about the cases, check it out and let me know what you think. I spent a lot of time on it. And I think that's it. Harvey has settled in, so we're ready to record. Harvey's 6-month birthday is today, the day I'm recording on the previous Friday that you're listening to this. So she's 6 months old, so we finally let her stay out all night. We used to keep her locked in my room just because she was so alarmingly small. And my house has a lot of marble and sharp corners in it, and we have a balcony with an iron fence. Iron fence, that's not what I meant. Railing. Why did that take me so long? So it's just a lot of gaps. So she's surely going to slide out, jump out, fall on the marble floor below. But in her defense, she has yet to do that. So happy birthday, Harves. Okay, so I'm going to be doing the Danny Masterson rape trial. So there's going to be a lot of graphic description of sexual assault, rape, abuse, things like that. So if that hits a little too close to home for you, you could feel free to skip this one. I can't even tell you where to start and stop if you still wanted to listen. But that is what I'm doing. Like I said, on the Patreon, I was doing another one like another case that's not that well understood. Like, I didn't really know what he actually did, but I saw like a rich white dude get 30 years in prison for assaulting women. I'm like, okay, well, he must have done something because they don't ever do that. So for the first time, like ever, I have no background. I don't know. I just really got right into it. If you're not familiar with who Danny Masterson is, he played Hyde on that 70s show, most famously, I think. He was on The Ranch on Netflix for a little bit with Ashton Kutcher. I don't know what else he was in, honestly. And Hyde was such a great character that I hate that he is now tainted with the memory of how terrible, truly terrible Danny Masterson was. Like, if you don't know what really happened or what actually happened, buckle up, because you're going to be like, what the fuck? So, leading up to 2017, 2018, it was first reported that Danny was under investigation by the Los Angeles Police Department over sexual assault allegations by journalist Tony Ortega on his blog about Scientology, the underground bunker, on March 3rd, 2017. Failed to mention, along with his acting credits, he is also a full-blown Scientologist. This isn't about Scientology, really. It comes up a bit on how this all played out, but Scientology is famous for really coming after anyone who speaks about them. So if you're listening, I'm not speaking about you right now, okay? We're speaking about Danny Masterson. He had, he as in Tony Ortega, isn't that the guy who choreographed High School Musical? Tony Ortega. I really think it is. I used to love those behind the scene things they would show. God, I miss old Disney Channel. We have got to get it together. I have to finish one sentence. Tony Ortega had gotten a hold of documents that showed the LAPD had been investigating Danny Masterson for 3 alleged rapes. And Ortega said that the investigation really started to gain traction after the release of Leah Remini's Scientology in the Aftermath in 2016 into 2017. So that was the book that she had released after she left Scientology. It's not an easy thing to leave if you're not familiar. You don't just like stop going to Scientology church. It's a whole thing. So she finally left, and then she was very, very outspoken about it. She has, oh no, that's not her book. That is her TV series, I'm sorry. Her like docu-series about it. You should watch it if you want to know more about Scientology. So it really gains traction after the release of her docu-series. And it's hard to get into the how and why without telling everything. So bear with me while I try to do this in an order that makes sense, because I had a really hard time putting it together. So, the 3 people who were alleging rape were also Scientologists. So while we learned of this in 2017, the rapes took place in the very early 2000s. The women, which I will get into, were urged by the Church of Scientology to not report any of the rapes to the LAPD. So all of this to say, Leah Remini's show comes out, which of course brought forward more victims of Scientology who confided in her, and one of those was a woman who had been trying to get the LAPD to investigate Danny Masterson for years. So Ortega was able to reach Leah Remini pretty quickly to talk to her about this case that he had unearthed somehow. Remini tells us that she said to the woman, who we're calling Victim A, that it was time for people to take action, and she encouraged Victim A to file a police report. When she did that, Remini then got personally involved in the investigation, which soon grew when 2 additional women were added to it. One of those women, Victim B, had filed a report with the LAPD in 2004 after her rape had occurred in 2003, but that investigation was closed when witnesses, who were Scientologists, contradicted the victim's testimony. As a result of Victim A coming forward, the LAPD then contacted Victim B and reopened her case, with Leah Remini's encouragement. Remini said, "I met with the LAPD, I met with Detective Reyes, and I told her these victims deserve to be heard. I pointed out to her that there was a framed picture of a Scientologist on their wall. Actor Michael Pena, do you know what that says to a young Scientologist who comes in here to seek justice? My experience with the LAPD has not been good. I asked her to do the right thing by these girls, and I told her that the world is watching." But after several months, Victim A became increasingly frustrated with the LAPD's investigation, and on February 22nd, she wrote a lengthy and detailed letter to LAPD Captain William Hayes and LAPD Chief Charlie Beck, spelling out what she claimed were signs that the LAPD had been compromised by the Church of Scientology. In her message, Victim A described the background of her case. In November, Victim A made a police report in her local city. She no longer lives in California where the alleged rape took place, so she filed a report where she lives now. That police department referred the case to the LAPD's Hollywood station on Wilcox Avenue, but was then assigned to Detective Esther Reyes of the Robbery and Homicide Division, which is weird. Victim A wrote to the LAPD chief, "I was told that my report was transferred out of the Wilcox location into downtown due to known leaks within the Hollywood division when I received a phone call from Detective Reyes later that day. She warned me that I am not to speak to any other officer or anyone claiming to be an officer." So it sounds ridiculous that there could be like a whole Scientology breach of the police department, but it does sound like that's exactly what's going on here. Like, none of this is happening because the Scientologists and the LAPD are so intertwined that they're sort of like covering up for each other. So Victim A was told by Reyes that Victim B's case, which had originally been investigated by the LAPD in 2004, had officially been reopened, and that a new victim, Victim C, had also filed an official report. So they have like 3 official reports against the same man going on right now. From the same letter that she wrote the LAPD chief, she told me she has taken our police reports out of the LAPD computer so that no one could see them. She said she had them in a vault that only she and her captain could access. She told me this was done to safeguard the case, as she agreed that there are leaks in the LAPD and that some LAPD officers are very friendly with the Church of Scientology. LAPD would confirm to people that they were investigating him for rape, and his rep would come out and deny all of the allegations. A rep for Masterson responded with this statement to The Hollywood Reporter: "We are aware of the alleged victim's 16-year-old allegations. It was only after the alleged victim was in contact with Leah Remini that she made the allegations of sexual assault by Mr. Masterson. The alleged incident occurred in the middle of their 6-year relationship, after which she continued to be his longtime girlfriend. Significantly, during their long relationship, she made numerous inconsistent claims that she was previously raped by at least 3 other famous actors and musicians. When Danny ended the relationship, she continued to pursue him, even making threats to beat up his current wife, Bijou Phillips, unless she left him. In fact, we are informed by the church that the only demand the alleged victim made of the Church of Scientology after Danny broke up with her was asking for their help to intervene so the breakup would not be permanent. We are also aware that approximately 14 years ago, a woman referred to in the blog made allegations of sexual assault, that the LAPD interviewed numerous witnesses and determined the claim had no merit. Based on reading the anti-Scientology blog that posted the story, these false allegations appear to be motivated to boost Leah Remini's anti-Scientology television series, since the alleged victim only came forward after connecting with Leah Remini." So at the start, there are 3 women accusing him. After this comes out, 2 more people join them: Chrissy Carnell Bixler and Bobette Reales. Bixler came out after The Ranch and Netflix tweeted about new episodes coming out in 2018. She couldn't believe they were going to continue on with Masterson after it had already come out that the LAPD was in fact investigating him. Like, it wasn't a rumor anymore. He tried to deny that they were even investigating him, I think. This is a known thing now. So she's like, how the hell are you still making a show with Danny Masterson when he has like 3 very violent rape allegations against him? So Victim B was loosely in the same circle as a Netflix executive. Her husband coached a soccer team, and the executive coached a soccer team, and the 2 teams played each other. That's what's going on here. That was very confusing for my brain when I read it. Also, why is a Netflix executive coaching a soccer game? So she went up to him and asked him if he worked for Netflix, and he said yes. She asked why Netflix was not taking action against Masterson in light of the district attorney's investigation and the multiple accusations of rape against this man. According to Victim B and another witness, separate person also heard this, his name is Yeatman, said Netflix takes sexual misconduct allegations seriously, but that we do not believe them. So he had no idea that she was one of the victims when he said this. I want to say he wouldn't have said it. I can't say he wouldn't have thought it still. I think more often than not, people choose to not believe people who say things like this, which is like half of the fucked up problem. So Netflix actually fired the guy, obviously, and released a statement. Mr. Yeatman's comments were careless, uninformed, and do not represent the views of the company. Further, he would have no insight into decision-making on the ranch. We are aware of the allegations against Danny Masterson, and we are following the current investigation and will respond if developments occur. The very next day, on December 5th, 2017, Netflix fired Danny Masterson. After discussing with the producers, we've decided to write Danny Masterson off of the ranch. Yesterday was his last day of work, and we will make new episodes in 2018 without him. Masterson said in a statement via his rep at the time that he was very disappointed in Netflix's decision and reiterated his denial of the outrageous allegations against him. A month later, in January 2018, United Talent Agency, a top Hollywood agency, confirmed to the Huffington Post that it no longer represented Danny Masterson. The agency had previously worked with the actor for 20 years. So it seems like everything is really starting to crumble around him, which has to lead people to believe that these allegations are a lot worse than Danny Masterson is trying to play them down to be. So 4 women filed a lawsuit in August of 2019 against Danny Masterson and the Church of Scientology, alleging they were stalked and intimidated after accusing the actor of sexual assault. In the complaint obtained by People magazine, I can see that it's People magazine because it's in all caps in my notes, but sometimes when I say that, I'm like, I wonder if they think I just mean like some random people. No. In a complaint obtained by People, the magazine, Chrissy Carnell-Bixler, who was Danny Masterson's ex, and Marie Babette Reales and 2 anonymous Jane Does accused Masterson and the church of engaging in stalking, physical invasion of privacy, and a conspiracy to obstruct justice, among other allegations, claiming they and their families were harassed in an effort to silence them. Danny Masterson said in a statement to People magazine through his attorney at the time, "This is beyond ridiculous. I'm not going to fight my ex-girlfriend in the media like she's been baiting me to do for more than 2 years. I will beat her in court and look forward to it because the public will finally be able to learn the truth and see how I've been railroaded by this woman. And once her lawsuit is thrown out, I intend to sue her and the others who jumped on the bandwagon for the damage they caused me and my family." Which is just a bold thing to say, knowing that he was wrong. Like, I don't understand what he thought was going to happen. In a statement around the same time, a litigation counsel for the Church of Scientology told People magazine, "From everything we have read in the press, this baseless lawsuit will go nowhere because the claims are ludicrous and a sham. It's a dishonest and hallucinatory public stunt. Leah Remini is taking advantage of these people as pawns in her money-making scam." So they are all in, and these girls are lying. They're liars. They're making everything up. None of it is true. They're pawns by Leah Remini so she can make more money, blah, 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 blah. Which, you're going to be so furious when you read what actually happened, that they were trying to... It'll make sense why they were trying to downplay everything, but you're going to be so pissed off that he was trying to lie about this. On June 17th, 2020, the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office announced that Masterson had been charged with 3 counts of rape by force or fear. He was arrested and released on a $3.3 million bail that same day. So that was only 3. The DA's office declined to file sexual assault charges against Masterson in 2 other cases, one for insufficient evidence and the other based upon the statute of limitations for the alleged crime. Because statute of limitations do exist. You can't... For certain crimes, you can't hold, unfortunately, you can't hold it in forever. Like, you have to do it within a certain time frame, or there's really nothing they can do about it in the law. So, that was one of them. In a statement to People in 2020, Masterson's attorney, Tom Mesereau, said, "Mr. Masterson is innocent, and we're confident that he will be exonerated when all the evidence finally comes to light and witnesses have the opportunity to testify. Obviously, Mr. Masterson and his wife are in complete shock, considering that these nearly 20-year-old allegations are suddenly resulting in charges being filed, but they and their family are comforted knowing ultimately the truth will come out. The people who know Mr. Masterson know his character and know the allegations to be false." Which, this is so crazy to me. How can you say things like that when you know it's not true? His lawyer has to be sweating his butt crack off the shit that I'm about to read to you in a few minutes, that they're trying to say is a lie, doesn't exist, not that bad, blah, 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 blah. I don't know what they're alleging, but they are dead ass wrong. So Danny Masterson was set to be arraigned on September 18th, 2020, but there were several roadblocks. Obviously, this is the height of COVID. Well, not the height, but 2020 was still like a very dicey year. In addition to the COVID thing, Masterson's attorneys, Thomas Messerow and Sharon Applebaum, argued that the case should be thrown out because the alleged rapes occurred outside the statute of limitations. The Los Angeles County District's Attorney Office charged Masterson under the state's one-strike sex offense law, which provides for potential life sentences for certain sex offenses, including allegations involving multiple victims. Deputy District Attorney Reinhold Mueller argued that the legislature clearly intended that such crimes would not have a statute of limitations, which says a lot to what they think they have. Judge Eleanor Hunter sided with the prosecution on October 19th, holding that there is no statute of limitations for one-strike offenses, and he was set to be arraigned on November 2nd. Again, due to COVID-19, his arraignment was pushed back to January 2021, where he pled not guilty via his lawyer, so he didn't even go to his own arraignment. And he's out on bail this whole time, remember. He's not been put in jail awaiting trial. He's out. May 18th, 19th, and 20th, the 3 victims gave their testimonies, which I will be reading verbatim as they were reported. Most of this comes from the Cut, the magazine, but I did add in some other details from the longer versions of the testimonies that I read. This is when it's going to start to get infuriating, disgusting, graphic. So if you can handle the trial and everything else, but not this is when you're going to want to stop listening and pick back up. 10 minutes maybe? I'm not too sure. So, Jane Doe 1, Masterson's first accuser, who she is named in the trial briefs as Jen B, but she testified as Jane Doe number 1, so that's what's going on there. Told jurors Masterson anally raped her during their first sexual encounter in 2002. She recalled confiding in a Church of Scientology ethics officer afterward, who she said forced her to make peace with what happened and made her complete an ethics program, where she says she was taught she was responsible for the alleged crime. She said, "My understanding my entire life was that you can never be a victim, no matter what condition you find yourself in, no matter how horrible, you are responsible. You created that." Jane Doe number 1 also testified that Masterson raped her at his house in 2003, allegedly giving her something to drink before throwing her into the jacuzzi, where she said she felt nauseous and experienced trouble seeing. Per her account, Masterson ignored her protest and carried her to his upstairs bedroom, where she says he put a finger down her throat to make her throw up. Then she said she was starting to cry on the stand at this point. She said, "I lay down on that floor. My face was on the tile. It felt nice because it was cold and I wasn't moving and it felt safe. I just wanted to stay there." She didn't know how much time had passed, she said, before she heard Masterson say that all the vomit was fucking disgusting, and he dragged her into the shower. She said, "I remember him pulling me up on my underarms, handing me soap. He told her to grab the fucking soap, but she couldn't. He grabbed my hair," she continued, "and pulled me up because I kept trying to sit back down. I don't remember soaping myself." She mainly remembered being slumped on the floor of the shower, then the water turning off, after which she said, "I guess I went unconscious or something. I don't remember." So he washed her naked body, if you didn't pick that up. Jane Doe number 1 said she punched Masterson, who took her to his bed. There she said she passed out and woke up to the actor penetrating her. After a struggle, she said the actor pulled a gun from his nightstand drawer and ordered her to shut the fuck up as it was held up, because apparently someone had knocked on the door and he didn't want her to say anything. Because there are other people there. There was apparently a witness there that night who could have testified to her sobriety before the party and her frantic panic after. The witness said, "We were all good friends. I was at Danny's for a party one night and he was DJing. Victim B showed up at some point. I remember that she was sober. She hadn't been drinking, but then Danny made her a drink. Later from the backyard, I heard Danny say Victim B is going into the pool, and then he threw her into the pool. The witness went outside to see what had happened. Victim B was in the water along with 2 other men. She had all her clothes on. I remember she was wearing a black halter top and black jeans." He said, to tell the truth, I kind of felt sorry for her and I resented Danny for doing it, but she said that she was okay. He says Victim B came out of the pool, went to a patio chair and curled up in a ball. Someone wrapped a towel around her. Danny at some point said to her, "Hey, let me take you upstairs." The witness said, "Whoa," but he's trying to stop Danny from doing it, but Danny said, "No, I would never do that. She's my homie." Which speaks to that immediately Danny thought someone else thought he was going to rape her. He's like, "No, I'm not going to do that to her." Why would that be the first thing you think of? Later, the witness says he was in the living room as the party had begun to fizzle out, and that's when he heard a commotion coming from upstairs where Danny's bedroom was. He said, I saw victim B. She was coming towards me. Her hair was still drying. She looked terrified, and she said, oh my God, Danny just raped me. She was freaking out and crying. Jane Doe 1 said she reported the incident to her Scientology ethics officer, understanding that reporting a Scientologist in good standing, like Masterson was, would make her a suppressive person, which is what they call people. I don't fucking know. That's what they call people like when you leave Scientology, but... And they would have found her guilty of a high crime. She said my life would be over. She told the jurors, explaining that she feared expulsion. My parents would have to disconnect from me. My daughter couldn't go to school. I wouldn't have anywhere to work or live. I wouldn't have anywhere to go. She said she later wrote to the church's internal justice chief officer and asked for permission to report Masterson, but was deterred. She reported the rape anyway in 2004, at which point she said she received a call from the chief officer telling her, you have no idea how fucked you are. The LAPD did not pursue charges at the time, a decision Jane Doe number 1 said left her feeling scared. She signed an NDA and accepted $400,000 settlement from Masterson, citing pressure from the actor and the church. A lawyer from the church apparently went to her parents' house to tell them that, like, the paperwork was all drawn up to make her a suppressive person, like trying to get someone to talk her into stopping doing this. And when you leave Scientology, I thought I put it in this part, but I guess I didn't. When you leave Scientology, you, like, no longer are able to communicate with anyone who is a Scientologist. So she wouldn't be allowed to talk to her parents anymore, unless her parents also wanted to leave the church and blow up their own life. Or her, like, daughter wouldn't be able to communicate with her friends who were in the church still. I always wanted to, as a one-shot, how Katie Holmes got out of Scientology, because remember, Tom Cruise is a giant Scientologist. And you know, Katie Holmes is our girl. She's from Toledo. We claim her as our own. Her dad is like a very prominent lawyer. So Katie Holmes' dad beat Scientology, basically. Because it is not easy. It's not easy to get out and, like, continue to live a fulfilled life. They want to make it hard. You can, because Nicole Kidman's doing it. Katie Holmes is doing it. But they do not make it easy. It's going to be, like, the hardest thing you do. So they're basically going to her parents' house to tell them, like, listen, we have the paperwork all drawn up to, like, kick her out of the church, and then you'll never get to talk to her again. During cross-examination, Masterson's legal team attempted to poke holes at apparent discrepancies between her police report and her current testimony. Remember, this police report is from 2004. It's now 2021. Pressed about the settlement amount, she told the defense she did not name a dollar amount before settling and described her decision to sue Masterson and the church in 2019 as a way to sue for peace, adding it's the only way for them to stop their alleged harassment. Jane Doe number 1 also told jurors she fears retaliation from the church against her and her 3 children for testifying at Masterson's trial. Christina B., his former girlfriend, testified that she screamed at Masterson to get off me when she woke up to him raping her in 2001. She told jurors she met the actor in 1996 when she was an 18-year-old model who had just moved to L.A. She said, I believed he was very charming and I fell for him, adding that she moved in with Masterson within 2 weeks of their first date and that he soon convinced her to convert to Scientology. She said she was told those closest to her were suppressive people and disconnected from them, socializing with fellow Scientologists instead. A year into her relationship with Masterson, Christina B. claimed he became sexually aggressive and physically and emotionally abusive, explaining that it was normal to wake up to him having sex with her and alleging that the actor once dragged her across the floor by her hair when she refused to have sex with him. The rape allegation stems from a December 2003 morning in which Christina says she woke up in pain and bleeding after a night out at a Los Angeles restaurant. She said, when I first woke up, I felt very confused. I noticed that my whole body hurt. I noticed that I was injured, like her butt, her bottom. It was red. She couldn't sit down. It was not normal. She said it was torn and had little bleeding. It hurt to go to the bathroom. When she asked Masterson what happened, she said he laughed at me and said that he had sex with me there, indicating her butt. I asked him if I was unconscious the whole time, and he said yes. She said it broke my heart because I really trusted him. Telling jurors Masterson had rules about touching his hair and face, she described purposefully pulling on his hair the night of the alleged rape in 2001 to get him to stop, and said Masterson hit her in the face in response. She said, I felt shocked. I started screaming. Christina B. recalled adding that the actor then got off the bed, spit on me, and called me white trash. Speaking about the terror campaign, quote her words, the Church of Scientology allegedly subjected her to after coming forward with her accusations. Variety reported that Christina B. appeared panicked on the stand at one point, saying, "I can't breathe." She testified that she went to the church, which she called a criminal organization in her testimony, after the alleged 2001 rape, but that a church officer told her it wasn't possible to rape one's girlfriend and that it was her job, or they called it like a hat, it was her hat to give Masterson sex whenever he wanted, which is not true. Don't believe that. You don't have to have sex with anyone ever if you don't want to. Literally ever. Even if you're in the middle of doing it and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore, you can for sure stop doing it. Don't let anyone tell you that. She also alleged her ethics officer told her no crime was committed, and that, like Jane Doe number 1, she was put into an ethics program. She eventually reported Masterson to the LAPD in 2016 and says she has been treated as a suppressive person since, with the church allegedly stalking her, threatening her, and attempting to run her off the road. She said, "What my husband and my babies have been through the last 6 years, I would not have survived it in 2001. She also alleges that she was targeted on social media, subjected to credit card fraud, and phone and email hacking, and that her dog was killed. Masterson's defense team again tried to point out inconsistencies between Christina B.'s police interviews and the testimony she relayed at her preliminary hearing last year, to which Christina responded that she had never been interviewed by a detective before and she was terrified, adding that she had always answered her questions honestly. As he paced back and forth, Christina B. interrupted and asked him to stop walking near Masterson. She said, "When you walk to the side of the courtroom, I don't want to look over there." Cohen agreed to ask us questions from the podium, but that is how terrified she is of Danny Masterson. She, can't look at his lawyer who's pacing the room when he gets to that side because she can't even look at him. Meanwhile, a spokeswoman from the Church of Scientology told Variety Christina B.'s allegations are categorically untrue. Obviously. So, Jane Doe number 2 testified that she was pleading for Masterson to not rape her. Jane Doe number 2 testified that Masterson violently raped her despite her pleas for him to stop, adding that she felt like a rag doll afterwards. The woman said Masterson invited her to his house in 2003, describing a similar scenario as Jane Doe number 1. Scarily, like he has a pattern. She explained the actor gave her a glass of wine and commanded her like a drill sergeant to get into the jacuzzi, where she felt heavy, numb, couldn't see, as Masterson began kissing her. She said, "I did not want any of what was happening," she said, explaining that she repeatedly told Masterson, "We cannot have sex, Danny." Masterson allegedly ordered her to get into the shower and penetrated her without her consent before demanding she go to the bedroom, where she said she was pleading for him not to have sex with her. Jane Doe number 2 said Masterson agreed, but later changed course, flipping her over and pounding me from behind so forcefully that she said she had to fight the urge to vomit on his bed. She told jurors he was raping me, describing that the physical pain made her feel like she wasn't in charge of her faculties. I was shocked, and I was like, "Oh my God, what are you doing? I told you not to do that." Which is terrifying because she can obviously see what's coming, and she's begging him to stop because she knows not only what's going to happen, but she knows that Scientology and the LAPD are not going to do anything about it. So she knows this is something that she's going to have to deal with now and for the rest of her life by herself. Because remember, she is also a Scientologist at the time. So Jane Doe number 2 said Masterson was more important than her in the church, prompting her to recontextualize what had happened because she feared the consequences of reporting it to the church, which she said had discouraged her from reporting a previous rape by an ex-boyfriend. She said, "I was gaslighting myself," comparing Masterson to a predator and stating that she understood it was rape when she finally left the church. As an adult woman, you have plenty of time to see these distinctions between someone having an affinity for you and someone targeting you as a piece of meat. Though Jane Doe number 2 reported the incident to the LAPD 13 years later, she said there was something shady about the way the investigation stalled. She also said she'd faced harassment and intimidation since filing her police report and had experienced panic and anxiety attacks as a result. There was a fourth accuser, Trisha V., said Masterson raped her without a condom and told her diseases are in the mind. So she was a non-Scientologist who Danny Masterson's defense team tried and failed to exclude from testifying. She told the court she fell asleep on Masterson's floor in 1996 and woke up to him raping her. Called by the prosecution to establish a pattern of Masterson's misconduct, Trisha told jurors she had worked on a film with Masterson at the time and went to his house for a wrap party. Because she smoked marijuana and had a few drinks, she and other guests decided to stay at his house. Tricia testified that Masterson brought her to his bedroom, where she said she eventually woke up to him penetrating her, at which point she became disoriented and lost consciousness before waking up naked in Masterson's bed. She told jurors he was just smiling at me. That was sort of confusing to me, as if we were on a date or something sweet. Tricia also alleged Masterson attempted to rape her a second time a month before, describing how he came to her house and offered her a flask to drink before the two went to Tricia's bedroom, where she said she began feeling intoxicated and recalled Masterson trying to take her pants off. She said she told him she didn't want to have sex and that he laughed and continued on. I was telling him to stop, but I was also telling him that he didn't have a condom on, and I remember him saying diseases are in the mind. So that was all of the victims' statements and testimonies. Danny Masterson elected to not testify. Probably very smart. On November 30th, the judge declared a hung jury, as the jurors said they could not reach a verdict on any of the charges. In a note to Judge Charlene O'Mato, the jurors said, "We are not even close to coming to a unanimous decision on any count and are convinced this will not change." The jury foreman informed the judge that they had taken 7 votes over the last 2 days and remained deadlocked on each charge. The split was 2 for guilty, 10 for not guilty on count 1, 4 for guilty and 8 for not guilty on count 2, and 5 for guilty and 7 for not guilty on count 3. So yeah, not even close, which is crazy how you can listen to that and have 2 people vote for guilty and 10 for not. That's insane. Masterson declined to comment outside of court. Philip Cohen, his defense lawyer, said that Masterson was feeling a lot of relief, though Cohen acknowledged there is a risk he could be tried again. He said hopefully what the jury indicated in this case will be looked at by the district attorney's office. To hear 10 for not guilty, 8 for not guilty, 7 for not guilty speaks volumes, which I agree, but I don't, it's so fucked up. But he's saying it like it's a good thing. 2 of the accusers issued a statement through their lawyers expressing disappointment in the outcome. We are obviously disappointed that, at least for the time being, Daniel Masterson has evaded criminal accountability for his deplorable actions, and said they aren't giving up. In a separate statement, the Los Angeles County DA's office also said it was disappointed, though it thanked the jury for its service. We also want to give our heartfelt appreciation to the victims for bravely stepping forward and recounting their harrowing experiences. We also are thankful for the hard work of the prosecution team, and we will now consider our next steps as it relates to prosecuting this case. The retrial was set for March of 2023, which I think is where most of us probably caught wind of this situation. This is when it really sort of blew up. Well, not blew up. It was in the media the whole time, but this is when it was everywhere. So they do the retrial. Retrials go about the same as the regular trial, as usual, so not much new information there. I do think the judge allowed the prosecutor to tell the jury specifically that Masterson drugged his victims. I think they were only able to allude to it in the first trial, so for the retrial, the judge is saying, you can tell the jury that Danny Masterson slipped them something in their drinks before he did this to them, because it sounds like that's entirely true. The trial lasted a month, and the jury deliberated for a week before finding Danny Masterson guilty on 2 counts of rape by force or fear, remaining deadlocked on the 3rd charge, although the majority did vote to convict in an 8-4 vote. The only one they did not charge was Christina B., his ex-girlfriend. According to LA reporter Megan Cuniff, Masterson had virtually no reaction, who noted that his family members were fighting back tears and that his wife Bijou Phillips had also began to cry. Masterson was handcuffed and immediately sent to jail, where he will be remanded until the next hearing on August 4th, 2023, to decide his sentencing, where he was facing a maximum of 30 years in prison. So, before the sentencing phase, which you probably know where this is going, and this is why I said this is probably where we got wind of it, because this was such a big deal, you couldn't avoid it. Over 50 people sent letters to the judge attesting to Masterson's character and asking for leniency in his sentencing. One of those letters was from Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, which they rightfully got torn apart for. In their letter, they described Masterson as an outstanding older brother figure. Mila said she could wholeheartedly vouch for his exceptional character. Ashton, meanwhile, credited Masterson for corralling him away from drugs and calling him a role model. Ashton said, "While I'm aware that the judgment has been cast as guilty on 2 counts of rape by force, and the victims have a great desire for justice, I hope that my testament to his character is taken into consideration in sentencing. I do not believe he is an ongoing harm to society. Well, I'm certain they had no idea this would ever see the light of day. And when it did get released, they got lit up. They ended up issuing a weird apology video saying they did not mean to question the legitimacy of Masterson's verdict, nor undermine the testimony of the victims. Ashton Kutcher said that the couple would never want to do that, and they were sorry if that had taken place. Which, shut up. How can you read the things that he did and ask for leniency in his sentencing? And that you don't believe he's an ongoing harm. I've never seen a more in-your-face ongoing harm to society than Danny Masterson. And they ended up having to step down from the anti-sex trafficking organization that he founded. Because honestly, I agree. How can you trust his legitimacy in that area when he is asking a violent rapist not get too bad of a sentence? He's like, I know he was found guilty of rape by force or fear on 2 different counts. But can it not be too bad? Can you go a little easy on him? These statements did not sway the judge, who during the hearing said, Mr. Masterson, you are not the victim here. Your actions 20 years ago took away another person's voice and choice. One way or another, you will have to come to terms with your prior actions and their consequences. Before Masterson was sentenced, the 2 women he was convicted of raping gave victim impact statements. The Associated Press reported that the 2003 victim said, when you raped me, you stole from me. That's what rape is, a theft of the spirit. You are pathetic, disturbed, and completely violent. The world is better off with you in prison. The other woman Masterson was found guilty of raping said he has not shown an ounce of remorse for the pain he caused. I knew he belonged behind bars for the safety of all the women he came into contact with. I am so sorry and I am so upset. I wish I had reported him sooner to the police. The defense sought to have sentences for the 2 convictions run simultaneously and asked for a sentence of 15 years to life. The prosecution asked for the full 30 years to life sentence Masterson was eligible for. Masterson's lawyer, Sean Hawley, told the judge before the sentencing, it's his life that will be impacted by what you decide today, and the life of his 9-year-old daughter who means the world to him, and to whom he means the world to. The judge said, I really don't care. And on September 7th, 2023, Danny Masterson was sentenced to 30 years in prison for forcible rape. Masterson's defense attorney, Sean Hawley, said in a statement to People magazine after the verdict that he will appeal it. He said, for past several months, a team of the top appellate lawyers in the country has been reviewing the transcripts of the trial. They have identified a number of significant evidentiary and constitutional issues which they will address in briefs to both state and federal appellate courts. The errors which occurred in this case are substantial and unfortunately led to verdicts which are not supported by the evidence. Though we have great respect for the jury in this case and for our system of justice overall, sometimes they get it wrong, and that's what happened here. Mr. Masterson did not commit the crimes for which he had been convicted, and we, and the appellate lawyers, the best and brightest in the country, are confident that these convictions will be overturned. Which, what a hill to fucking die on. Everyone is, willing to die on this hill that Danny Masterson did not do the very specific things that these women are alleging. The prosecution felt just the opposite. In a statement to People magazine following the verdict, Los Angeles County District Attorney George said this has been a long and arduous road for the victims of Mr. Masterson. They not only survived his abuse, but they also survived a system that is often not kind to victims. I applaud their courage for coming forward and participating in this process. My hope is that this sentence will somehow bring them peace, and that their bravery will be an example to others. I also want to thank the entire trial team. This was a very difficult case, but due to their hard work, experience, and commitment, justice was finally served today. One of my top priorities is to ensure that Los Angeles will no longer be a hunting ground for the Hollywood elite who feel entitled to prey on women. Big claps for that. Danny Masterson will be eligible for parole after 25 and a half years in 2042, which doesn't seem that far away, honestly, for what he did, but you can't argue with him getting the maximum, even if the maximum wasn't enough. So, Bijou Phillips made headlines after filing for divorce from Danny Masterson after being very strongly by his side. It was a little shocking when this came out. She also requested spousal support, which people thought was funny because, he's going to prison. How is he going to give you spousal support? But, and I think, and this is not just me, other people also think this, but I say I think because there is no proof that this is what's going on, but I think this is an elaborate plan between Bijou and Danny, and I don't often speculate. I don't do that. But I just have a very strong feeling that this is something they had planned. So after she filed for support payments, people thought it was ridiculous, but in some people's minds, things started clicking. Like, this was a criminal proceeding. So this is revolved around sentencing, jail time, guilty, not guilty, things like that. However, there could still be a civil trial, and civil trials are often about monetary payments for the crime that had taken place. So, if you're following, Danny would still be liable to have to pay his victims who come for him in a civil suit, but they are not entitled to money that's no longer his. So, if he's paying Bijou, that is money that can't be given to his victims, because that money is hers now, not his. This would essentially ensure half of their estate would have to remain untouched, because I would believe these civil lawsuit amounts would be astronomical. I think it would bankrupt him. But this ensures half of their estate is safe. I think it was planned. That is my conspiracy theory. I find it very odd. She was by his side. They were taking selfies, walking into court. They'd go to court together every day. Even after he was guilty, before the sentencing, she was still by his side. And then she decided to divorce him. I think that was planned between them to protect their assets. The church has maintained that it is not a party to the case and should not be implicated. The church said in a statement following the sentencing, there is not a scintilla of evidence supporting the scandalous allegations that the church harassed the accusers. But Allison Anderson, a lawyer for two of the accusers, said that her clients plan to continue holding the church accountable for attempting to silence them. Despite persistent harassment, obstruction, and intimidation, these courageous women helped hold a ruthless sexual predator accountable today. They are eager to soon tell the fuller story of how Scientology and its enablers tried to desperately keep them from coming forward. A few weeks later, Scientology Money Church Project reported that the Church of Scientology has also moved to part ways with Masterson, apparently issuing a writ of expulsion on the disgraced actor. It has also labeled him a suppressive person, a designation that would require all of his Scientologist connections, including friends and family, to cut ties with him. Regardless of the expulsion, however, supposedly insiders tell the Daily Mail that the church still maintains Danny Masterson's innocence. And he still does too. I don't think this is the last we'll hear about this. That's all I have for today, but I think his lawyers are very serious about appealing it, and I think we could see that happen very soon. I don't think anything will come from it. I think the evidence is pretty damning against him. But I don't think he's going to give up. I don't think he's going to willingly spend 25 and a half years in prison, even though he knows he did it. And I also don't believe that they're divorced. I think they're still together, and I think they're just protecting their monetary assets. And that's okay if you don't think that. I did say I don't speculate a lot. I'm not into like the conspiracy or trying to guess what's going on in these things, because these are like real people's lives at play. But I do think they're trying to avoid giving money to his victims. And that is the rape trial of Danny Masterson. I am so sorry if you were not aware. I was not aware. As I was reading it, I felt so uninformed. I felt like I was doing a disservice to the victims by blindly just talking about how Danny Masterson might be accused of rape, not even knowing how actually terrible, not that any rape is not terrible, but he was like a serial violent rapist, just living amongst the people. So I'm sorry if you had to hear that for the first time today. It was kind of heavy. Sorry if it ruined your day. But let me know what you thought. Let me know if you knew about this or if this was also shocking to you. Let me know if you agree on my conspiracy of the Bijou Phillips Danny Masterson divorce, because I just feel in my heart that I'm right about it. And I will see you Monday if you are a subscriber. And if you're not, that's okay. I will see you Wednesday. And that's all I got for you. All right, enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend. Bye.